Wow. What a week we have had. I think I told you at the end of last week's video that it was only what, 10:30, 11 o'clock on a Sunday, and that things would get really interesting from that point forward. And boy, did it. So today I want to go over sort of what transpired in the last week as far as flares, as far as astrological stuff, and then weave it together so that you have a really good understanding of what this actually might mean to you, right? Because it's all about you. This is what we're doing. We are putting our cards on the table. We're sharing information and saying, this is what I've learned so far. How's it affecting you? And I'm getting lots of feedback in comments and on personal email and text that it's working, that what we're doing is we're connecting with each other and helping each other out. So excellent. First, I want to do a shout out to Pam Youngins on Facebook, who keeps me updated constantly. And then she's also started bringing Jason Estes in, who has been putting some unique perspectives on the energy. So I've been working with both of them this week, both of their pieces of information. And so I thought I would bring that to you as well. So those are the two people that I'm using mostly for points of reference to this week, right? Okay. Um, we've had a dozen or more C class. On yesterday, we had a really long duration C class, and C class is, whenever a solar flare does a peak up and a peak down, we kind of go, "Whoa, what was that?" When it is a long duration, what happens is we stay in that pressure and distortion for hours, and it's very uncomfortable. Yet if we know that that's what's going on, we can just keep sort of flushing things out and releasing them, right? So we had a long duration yesterday. We had 11 M class flares last week as well, between Sunday and now. And the way that Jason Estes would describe an M class flare, because it's going to be 10 times more powerful than the C class, is that it's like we are surgically going in and working on things, right? And then we had one major X class, X 2.56 on the 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. And again, going back to Jason Estes, what he's going to say is, this is a major breakthrough. This is like bam. And that is what these tower moments are all about, right? So I'm going to put them over here on this side so I can see them a little bit. This is the good tarot on the tower moment. This is what the Thoth deck looks like on the tower moment. And I could show you tons of towers. This is where things just break apart, right? So what we're experiencing is this denseness, this conditioning, these old layers on top of ourselves starting to loosen up and break loose, or break open and free us. And Jason put a picture, and I'm going to put it in the comments so you will find it. It's just a really short 2-minute video of what it looks like when they open a dam after it's been closed for years, and the sludge and the dark gray matter that comes out of it slowly just squeezes out like Play-Doh. And then it starts to flow more and more. And then it's dark gray water. And then finally clear water comes out. So what we're doing is very much the same. We're being moved. We're being shifted. We're being opened up. And this sludge just has to start moving, right? So what happens is that we're noticing that there are shifts. There are shifts in our emotions. There are shifts in our mental capacity. There are shifts in our perspectives. There are shifts in how we react or respond to things. So we're sort of like a little crazy. We can look a little crazy on the inside. We can look a little crazy on the outside. We can be agitated. We can be overwhelmed. We can be nervous. We can be exhausted. These are kind of the symptoms that have been continuing on over and over with these flares as we've been going through this, right? Okay, so we have the flares. They've been amping up. We know this. We've been predicting as the M classes increase and as the X classes start to show up more often, we are amping them up. Now, what I want to do is I want to put in, and I know that astrology isn't my, it's not my strong suit. It also isn't something that I'm formally trained in. However, as a coach who works with family systems and individual systems and relationships, when these astrological events happen, I know something's there. So I want to put them on as little markers, and I read up and find out how to explain it to you so that you can understand them a little bit more. Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the fact that Chiron, and for those of you who've known me for years, I've done a lot of deep dives into Chiron and the wounded healer and what that's all about, right? So Chiron conjuncts the North Node. Now, that might mean nothing to any of you, but let me just explain. Let's do conjunct, Chiron, and North Node and put them together, okay? So conjunct is when we bring together, when we are joined, when we combine, when we are blended, when we are united. So in astrology, it means when the two planets come together and stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder, right? And so these two are going to come in and go shoulder to shoulder. Now, Chiron is the wound that we incarnated with, the wound that we were born with that said, hey, in this lifetime, it's going to be really important to go find out what you do with betrayal, what you do with bullying, what you do with invisibility, what you do with hiding your craft, whatever it is, right? So whatever that childhood wound, and also the more we heal it, the more we flesh out our gifts, right? So that Chiron is going to represent the wound we incarnated with. And the North Node is the nodes of the moon, and the North Node is our purpose, what we are here for, what we are here to learn, to bring into form, and to begin, right? So our wound and our purpose are going to come up, and they peak tomorrow on the 19th. For the last 2 weeks, they've been getting closer and closer and negotiating and talking and getting closer. And tomorrow they're going to stand shoulder to shoulder and deal with it, right? Or begin to understand each other. And then throughout the rest of the month of February, they're going to start drifting apart again. But that doesn't mean that the intensity of these two planets isn't going to be extreme. I've been feeling it without even knowing what is going on. My dreams, my memories, the people that come into my head when I'm driving, I'm like, what is going on? Chiron and your North Node, your wound and your purpose are having a meeting. And they didn't tell you about it, so now you're a little surprised. Ouch. Okay. A couple other things that I want to cover is that God, this one's huge. So we're in Aquarius, and Pluto's been in Aquarius, right? So Pluto's in Aquarius, and Pluto is what's the best example? I have a card here to show you who Pluto is. Pluto is Scorpio. Pluto is death, right? And dying to your old ways, transforming yourself out of what you were into what you can be, right? So Pluto is a very transformational, powerful little planet, right? So Pluto is, it's our subconscious. It's below the surface. Think of Scorpios. They aren't really going to be forthcoming in what they want to talk about, but they're extremely powerful and very observant, and they don't mess around. And when they've made their mind up to do something, they do it, right? So Pluto's been in Aquarius, and on Tuesday, Mars came in and aligned or conjunct with Pluto. And Mars, well, Mars is like a bull in a china shop. Mars is going to be the emperor, right? I'm going to put over here. Over here. Sorry. I've got something on the side of my screen that's kind of throwing me for a loop, if you can't tell. Is the emperor, right? It's this masculine, strong-willed, motion, assertion, gonna get things done warrior, right? And so he comes in and he's kind of like, what do we have to do? Here we go. And Pluto and Mars have been working for a couple days. And then on yesterday, Venus showed up. And Venus is like the empress. She is love. She is money. She's pleasure. She's sex. She's relationships. She's how we relate with each other, which I have to start laughing about, because if you grew up in my decade where men are from Mars and women are from Venus, the whole book was like, these are two completely different planets, right? So when you take, and here's another version of these two, when you take this powerful Mars and this loving, pleasure-seeking, abundant Venus, and you put them in the same room, what happens is we have to start merging them together. We have to start integrating what this is. So in some ways, our masculine and our feminine are having a little sit down with Pluto, and Pluto's not messing around. So we can, Pluto's creating all sorts of discomfort, which is, how is that working for you? And what are you going to do because it doesn't work anymore? And we're being tapped, and we're being tapped, and we're being tapped for new perspectives, for ahas, for big changes, right? And so what happens is we have water with Venus, right? And we have fire again, which is this, this temperance card, right? Temperance, which is what happens when fire and water meet. And so and Pluto's holding the need to go deep, 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 and talk about honesty, talk about what's real, talk about what's aligned, what's fluff, what has to leave, and what needs to stop. And then Pluto's also going to be the way, cut away the things that don't work and start living, start having a life. And Venus, wow, is like, how do you hold yourself in this life, right? How do you change? How do you love yourself? How do you enjoy yourself? How do you create more pleasure? And Mars is going, yeah, but let's get it done. How are we going to do this? Let's go, let's go, let's go. So what's happening within us is we're having this shit storm inside because of the planets. We're having the outside with the solar flares creating all sorts of, what I'm going to say, just emotional, mental, physical chaos, right? Okay. So that said, I've got some tips for you. But before we say that, please keep in mind that the reason that I love to do these videos is that I've worked with family systems for decades, where all of a sudden the report card comes in, or the officers knocking on your door saying your son or your daughter's been involved in a accident and there are drugs involved. Somebody's been hurt, traumatized, abused significantly, and it just came out. So whenever these brand new pieces of information, it's like, how do we bring the family system into alignment around what just happened? That's what I know how to do. So right now, I'm a little I myself am a little overwhelmed, and at the same time, I am sitting in this place where I understand what's going on. And I know that there are those of you that may need some assistance, some coaching, some guidance as you're going through this as well, because it's hard. This is not easy stuff to go through. So I have 8 really quick tips for you. These are not the big ones that I usually do, but these are quick and concise, and I'm going to go through them. Okay. And they're down here in front of me, so you can see me looking at my notes. Number 1, when we're under tremendous physical, mental, emotional stress, our fire and water alchemy is it's steamy, it's hot, it's cold, it's fighting, it's this and that, and it's starting to learn how to work with it. So we need lots of rest. We need lots of rest all the time right now. So it means naps during the day. It means sitting quietly with spaces in between phone calls or appointments. It means turning everything off and driving home in a quiet way from work. It means maybe going to bed early. It means doing whatever you need to do to rest your body, because this integration is extreme. Okay, that's the first one. Number 2, the electrical impulses coming from the flares are not helping. So think of things that make that bigger, whether it's screens, whether it's Wi-Fi that's on in your house, that magnetizes or sort of it grows the impulses of the electricity already having a hard time in your body. So my suggestion is you turn your Wi-Fi off at night. I have all of the electronics on a surge protector, and I just hit the surge protector, turn the Wi-Fi off at night, turn the screens off, and find out how to allow my body to recalibrate without that additional electricity around me, right? Number 3, pay attention to how you hydrate. So I use trace minerals, and I also use electrolytes, and I'm drinking water like I've never, I just am not a water drinker, and I am on it because the body needs a lot of liquids in order to transform and do what we're doing, right? Also look at some teas. So anise, marshmallow, I think it was oat straw. These are some of the teas that can help soothe our body and sort of also keep that electrical sort of tension, anxiety down, right? Number 4, get outside and stand in nature. you know, sit, walk, hike, get outside and breathe, because nature has this natural ability to recalibrate us faster than sitting inside of our own house or sitting in a car. Nature, even if you're in your car, roll the window down, let some fresh air in, hear if there's any birds outside, do something to make sure that you're getting more reflected energy from nature, because it's going to help. It's going to help tremendously, right? Let's see, where are we? Number 5. Sorry, I got lost. I'm kind of excited about this, you can tell. Okay, so number 5, the older we get, the more layers we have. The longer the dam has been shut, the more gunk builds up, right? So the young ones aren't having nearly as much problem as the older ones. And the older ones, I'm going to say, are 35 and over. The ones who are having the worst time are the 50 and overs or the 60 and overs, because we have so many layers of conditioning, of cultural, institutional expectations that are honest, that have just built up like gunk, like so much gunk. So we have all this gunk to get off of us, while our kids are kind of like, wee, it's a solar flare. I feel so good. I don't want to sleep tonight. And you're like, what is going on? Right? Okay. Number 6, because there is a lot of electrical energy, baths help. And I want to be very clear, salt baths help. If we are dealing with sore muscles and strains and whatnot, then Epsom salts helps a lot. But if you want to reduce the electrical, put real salt, put Celtic salt, put Himalayan salt in your bath, like a cup. And this salt will help neutralize the electrical charges and the stimulations in your body. So that will bring it down, right? Number 7, ground. Get your shoes off, put your feet on the ground, breathe, embody, fully embody. Because if we don't embody, then what we're doing is we're not adjusting on a physical level the same way that we are on a mental or emotional level. Also, eat things like root vegetables. I'm eating tons of root vegetables, dark leafy greens, and also the other thing is to do like a daily lymph drain. So I have a whole routine, and I found it on YouTube. There's tons of them. There's about 4 or 5 steps, or there's 8, depending on how many zones you want to go after, and drain your lymph glands, because it really helps. I have found that to be the most pressure alleviating system or practice I can do for my system. Okay. And number 8, compassion. Have compassion, because none of us have ever done this before. We are navigating blind. So when we see someone who's freaking out, just like, wow, they're having a real hard time with this. If you see someone who's calm and just, like crying, have compassion for the fact that they are in something, and they're either big and acting out, or they're internal and they're suffering. Or have compassion for yourself, for your partner, for your children, because all of us are navigating our individual little systems side by side with one another. And it takes a lot of extra love and caring in order to make sure we support this. So compassion. We'll see what happens next week. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. And if you have some comments or some suggestions, put them in the comments for me, because we're all interacting. I'm noticing people are responding and responding and responding. And I will put the damn photo on there so you can see it. Have a great one. You take care, and I will see you next week.